Winnie Paul here, and I want to talk about people who want to be different. And mainly in this video, I want to talk about grass-type starter Pokemon. So people who choose grass-type starter Pokemon are just trying to be different. Now, so let's first start with Generation 1. This is somewhat acceptable because Bulbasaur, it's pretty cool. Same with its fully evolved form, Venusaur. But it doesn't look as cool or badass as Charizard. So that's why a lot of people would choose Charizard, which is actually why they made it in the games. One, Charizard is its first form, Charmander, is weak against the first two gym leaders. Plus, it was hardest level up, while Bulbasaur was the easiest, and also had the first two gym leader advantage. So therefore, it was actually intentional so more people could choose Bulbasaur because everyone was going to choose Charizard if they made everything even. So that's why they did that. But it's acceptable if you did choose Bulbasaur to start in Fire Red, Leaf Green, or Red, Blue, Yellow, whatever game, in Generation 1 / Generation 3. Then in Generation 2, which was Gold, Silver, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, those games. If you choose Meganium, which I think the first one was Chikorita, you are just trying to be different. There's no reason to choose Chikorita. One, it doesn't look as cool as Cyndaquil, Totodile, or the fully evolved forms, by the way. So the fully evolved forms are Typhlosion, Feraligatr, and Meganium. You are just trying to be different if you choose the grass-type Pokemon in Generation 2. People say, oh, Meganium, it was good, it was cool. It was not cool. You are 100% just trying to be different. So, again, if you choose Meganium in Generation 2 / Generation 4 Heart Gold Soul Silver, you are just trying to be different because it is terrible and not cool. Generation 3, you had Blaziken, a cool, awesome Pokemon. You had Swampert, cool, awesome Pokemon. And then you had Sceptile, decent Pokemon, but it's not better than the other two in terms of design and in terms of like actual gameplay. So these were actually good Pokemon, plus they look cool. So two things. One, the Pokemon has to look cool. Two, it actually has to be good. Or it just has to not be terrible. Because if a Pokemon looks cool, it's most likely going to be good as well. Because there's not going to be a Pokemon that just looks extremely awesome and badass, but then it just is terrible. That usually doesn't occur. But so yeah, like a Blaziken or a Swampert usually will be pretty good because one, they're starters, and two, fire and water type Pokemon starters are usually not terrible. It's usually the grass ones, but even then, like the grass type could be good. I'm still not choosing it. It could be the coolest Pokemon of all time. If you're grass, I'm not choosing you. So, Generation 4, this is actually a decent time you could have chosen grass type. If you chose Turtle, which evolves to Torterra, which is actually a cool Pokemon, plus it's actually very good, it's acceptable. And then you also had Infernape and Empoleon. There's no L's in whichever Pokemon you chose in this generation. It's kind of similar to Generation 1. But after that, Generation 5, you chose the Snake, Snivy, which evolves into Sceptile or something like that. Terrible decision. I actually, when I beat the game, the first time I played Pokemon Black and White, I chose Tepig and evolved to Emboar. And then I think I played it on my second time. I intentionally did choose the grass type just to be different. That's the only time you choose grass. After you beat, like, say, using the fire or water type, you're like, I want to be different, so therefore I'm choosing the grass type. But if it's your first playthrough and you choose the grass type, you 100% are trying to be different, and there's no reason to do so. Now, when I did play Pokemon X and Y, I think it was X, or whichever one had the Yveltal. In Gen 6, I did choose the grass type Pokemon just to be different. And it was actually a bad decision because Greninja is cooler, so is Delphox, but I just decided to be different, so I chose the grass type. If you choose a grass type Pokemon in the Pokemon games, you 100% are just trying to be different. There's absolutely zero reason except arguably in Gen 4 and Gen 1. If it's not these generations and it was your first time playing and you chose a grass type starter, you are just trying to be different. There's no reason in Gen 2 you should have chosen Meganium, especially on a second playthrough. There's absolutely no reason to ever use Meganium. And not even just from a difficulty perspective, because grass types are terrible in terms of typing and in terms of just overall ability, especially if it's just a singular grass type, but just in general overall. Because, and again, unless it's, say, Gen 1 with Venusaur, or unless it's with Torterra, they're not cool at all. They're not cool, one. Two, they're not like good or strong. And I'm not to say like you have to choose a Pokemon that's strong, because if your Pokemon looks extremely cool and badass to you, then you could choose that Pokemon. But they don't even look cool either. So Blaziken looks awesome. Swampert looks cool as well and is good. But then you have these grass types. Sceptile doesn't really look that cool. But then you also have other Pokemon like in other generations. So Typhlosion probably looks cool. And Ralligator is probably better, but Typhlosion, it looks extremely cool. Ralligator, it's decent. Then you have a game, and it's just, what's the point of even choosing that Pokemon? It doesn't look cool at all, plus it's terrible. So it's a double L. So the only reason you would choose this Pokemon is to be different. Like, oh, everyone's choosing Typhlosion, everyone's choosing Feraligatr. I'm gonna be different. I'm gonna choose the trash Pokemon that sucks and is ugly, just so I can pretend to be cool. Like, oh, look at how different I am. Everyone's choosing these Pokemon, but I chose a different one. I'm so much different. Congratulations, you chose a different Pokemon that everyone else was choosing.